Let's go back to 1996. There was gunfire up on the strip. Bam, bam, bam. Car came down here, whizzing around the corner, made a U-turn, hit this pole right here. You see all the writing on it? They pinned it over it twice, third time they've left it. That is where Tupac Shakur crashed, right there. Died 6 days later.
Welcome back to the channel. We are in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we are going to be on the big bus, and we're going to answer two big questions. That is, number one, is it worth it? And also, number two, what can you expect? Now, I'll start by saying that Las Vegas is a huge city. You can see it lots of different ways. You can see it up high in the air. You can also see it down low on the ground. Today, we're going to be on the big bus, and we're going to show you what that experience is like. And again, answer the two big questions, whether or not it's worth the money. You see right there, I just pointed out where the stop was, and this is what it's like to actually ride the big bus. The first thing I want to say is that boarding the bus was not a problem. They do check tickets, and that's because tickets are not inexpensive. They can run you as much as $50 for an adult ticket. Juvenile tickets are just a little bit less, so it's an expensive proposition. In my opinion, the best seats in the house are on top of the bus. The closer you are to the front, the better. But it really doesn't matter where you sit on the bus because the tour guide uses a mic and his voice is amplified throughout the entire bus. If you are on top of the bus and you are there in the winter, come prepared, because in Las Vegas, even though sometimes it gets to be 110, in the wintertime, it's actually quite cool and you're gonna feel it with all that wind. So definitely bring something in the wintertime. So let's talk about the tour guide. What makes or breaks your experience on this bus is going to be the tour guide. If you have a great guide, he's funny, he's giving you lots of facts, he's pointing out landmarks, but if you have a guide that's really not that good, then the experience absolutely sucks. I can't express that enough, because we were on there and we had one tour guide and he was great and the other good one was horrible, and it made all the difference in the world. Expect the tour to last you a good 2 hours, and that's because the bus stops about 8 times. So there's a process of loading and unloading passengers, which sucks up some time. But those 2 hours go really quick. But I strongly recommend that you do the big bus tour first. It should be one of the first attractions or things that you do, because the bus will point out attractions that you probably didn't know existed and maybe, are kind of curious about. But if you do it on the last day, then you really can't relive that experience. There is an app that allows you to track where the bus is. So if you're at a stop, it lets you know how long before the bus actually gets there. I strongly recommend you download that app. Now, I don't recommend you use the big bus as a traditional means of transportation because it doesn't run very often. My experience when I was there, it ran about every 45 minutes, which doesn't really make for effective transportation in my opinion.
All right, coming up here again, the M&M store, the bookstore, on the left over here.
So now to answer the question as to whether or not the big bus is worth it. And overall, I'd say yes. And here's why. If you're new to Las Vegas and you don't know what the city has to offer, you don't know what the roadways look like or what the scenery looks like, then this is a great way to get around. You get on the bus, you ride it for 2 hours, and the conductor will, he'll tell you about all the different things to do. And this is a great way not only just to see the city, but to learn a lot of interesting facts. Now, if you're by yourself or with a couple, great. However, if you're like me and you're with your wife and 4 kids, it makes for a $300 expenditure for a 2-hour ride. That to me is a bit expensive. I wish they had lower prices for kids. That would make it more family friendly. But overall, I can't say it's not worth it. It's a good deal. It's a good value, especially if you don't know what Las Vegas has to offer. I want to switch gears a little bit and tell you about my experience riding the big bus. One of the big things that I liked was I found the bus to be clean. And one of my concerns was that, it would be crowded and that we wouldn't get any seats, and especially not be able to get a seat on top of the bus, which is where we wanted to be, because I think that had the best views. I was always able to find a seat. The bus wasn't crowded at all. And those are some big things that I really liked the bus. I also love the fact that there was the app. The app told me when the bus was going to get to my location, which means I could maximize my stay at different locations and kind of show up just 5 minutes before the bus arrived, knowing that I would get on the bus. Also, I love the fact that the bus hit all the major attractions, and you could basically get a good feel as to what Las Vegas was about in about 2 hours. And that's a big deal because it's a walkable, drivable city, and this gave me the best option to be able to review the city and experience it. So especially if you're in Las Vegas for a short period of time, like maybe 1 or 2 hours or maybe less, or I guess you couldn't do it in less than 1 or 2 hours, but this gave you a good idea of what the city was about, and you got a chance to look at all the major attractions. So earlier I said it really depends on the conductor whether or not you're going to enjoy the big bus, and it really does. And there are several different ones. So I definitely recommend, if you don't like one conductor, get off that bus, wait for the next one, and talk to and hear what that operator says. The jokes are going to be different, and it's going to be just a different take on things. Here's one story about the Bally's fire.
This is the site of the old fire. Horrible days back then. It was in the 80s. About 88 people perished. Right by the kitchen, there was a fire in the wall. It got superheated, blew out, actually melted the people that were playing the slots. There was nothing left of it, sadly. The only thing left were the metal chairs. Most of the people perished with smoke inhalation. But because of all that bad times, now we are experts with handling fires in hotels. We've never had one since. People around the world come here to learn from us because of the horrible Bally's fire way back when.